Hey guys, it's been, well, a while. Yeah, I've got some explaining to do. But to properly tell this story, we're gonna have to go back. All the way back to March 17th.
Gets kick.
I finally uploaded Puzzle Pieces, my original animated series' second episode. For me, it was such a great moment. All the planning, all the promotion, all the work had finally paid off, and I finally had something to show everyone that I was genuinely proud of. And you guys loved it. The amount of support I got for that episode was amazing. So much, in fact, I had genuine professional animators reach out to me to congratulate me on my progress. And although the video didn't do that many views, to me, it was still a success. So after all the hassle that was episode 2, I was left with the biggest question. The biggest question I had completely neglected to think about after episode 2 was, yeah, what was next? The dreaded question every artist has to answer after completing a major project. So, after taking a little break, I looked through all my work and found my original screenplay as to the entire series that I made all the way back even further in December, around the first episode's production. So, I fortunately had a guide to follow in order to make episode 3, plus episode 2 was a feeling out phase for me. That episode took 2 months to make, so this one, that's much more contained, should be no trouble at all, and should come out in around late May, I had thought. Good lord, I couldn't have been more wrong. But before we get to that issue, I first needed an idea for episode 3, because all I had was a plan and nothing more. All I knew was that I wanted it to focus on the police officer to help flesh out his character and the world, and to provide something new to the series, seeing that Southerners was already the main focus of 2 previous episodes. But the hard part was trying to figure out what to do with the officer. With Southerner, it's easy, because his whole character is essentially a hunter of cryptid creatures, but the officer was someone different. He was a man of few words, someone who's no stranger to danger nor the supernatural events that are ongoing. Trust me, when more of the show comes out, you're going to want to see his backstory and how it relates to Southerner, because I've crafted a very interesting narrative for you to see in the future, and I hope it blows you away. So in order to figure out what to do with him per se, I did something so simple that it was pure genius. I took as many names for cryptid creatures I could find and put them on a wheel and just spun it to see what to go for. Yep, I am 100% serious right now. I spin that wheel and landed on something that had so much potential. The mermaid. A creature commonly depicted as a friendly and beautiful creature, I saw an opportunity to completely turn that notion on its head here. As seeing the new Little Mermaid remake was coming up, it was just such a perfect opportunity to use. I just couldn't pass it up. But then that's when it all started to go very wrong. So the episode's production was underway. I had the idea, the characters, and the creature. Now it was just the story. Now this part of the episode was, well, a shit show. And I mean this when I say it. The episode just started to go downhill from here. For you see, I had a script and I storyboarded it, and I was ready to animate it until I took a step back and realized it was awful. And I mean, it was bad and just cheap. The original story was full of plot holes, stupid ideas, and just a frustrating ending. This left me heartbroken. By how bad the story was, I couldn't just make a few small changes. If I wanted this to be anything decent, I'd have to scrap the entire thing. I'm not sure entirely why it was so bad, but I think I might have a few reasons per se as to why. It all boils down to my ego. You see, I think of myself as quite a humble guy most of the time, but when creating the story for this, my ambition had gotten the best of me. I started to think I was a way better storyteller than I actually was. And so whenever I made a poor decision, I didn't see it as a problem, because everything I make is gonna be great after all, because I put so much time and effort into it, right? So after taking a whole 2 weeks developing the story and storyboarding it, I looked at what I made and it was just all for nothing, because the story was just a complete mess on a fundamental and enjoyable level. And this is when my health began to deteriorate as well. I started to feel incredibly doubtful and angry mentally, so I ate very little and stayed inside much more. I eventually began to get sick, with me developing flu for 2 weeks and then a bacterial infection for another 2 weeks. Essentially, I was sick for a month straight. So it was with that, I was genuinely contemplating cancelling the entire series. I'm not joking. I wasn't in a good place for both, from the work I was doing and just things in my own personal life. Everything around me was just going in a very bad direction. I don't usually get personal on this channel, but this is just one instance where I just can't keep it a secret anymore. I genuinely wasn't happy with what I was making and how everything was going. Something had to change. Now, my original release date of May 29th came and went, and no episode was to be released. So with all that, I decided to make a change that drastically helped me improve myself and find peace within myself. And that was to just take a break. As a perfectionist, it's very hard to know when to stop and just take a breather. It's possibly one of the hardest things any artist can do, because you just want everything to go so well that you tend to neglect yourself. Because I had been pushing myself mentally and physically with the work, that I just needed a time to just refresh and just get away from it all. It was rather a humbling moment for me, because I've always kind of had the mentality that more is better, but at the cost of the enjoyment that got me to start this journey in the first place. So after I healed up from my illness, I made an effort to take a break and improve my health. And although my plans didn't work initially, I cannot stress enough how much I needed that break. It got me excited again to jump back into what I do best. And it's moments like those that are helpful in reminding me that I'm only human. So I won't be able to do anything and everything, so doing what I can do best at my own pace can really help keep that passion that got me on this journey to begin with. And so with that came the moment for me to finally get back into making this episode. After refreshing my brain, I finally started production once again on the episode. This time, making my expectations realistic to what I was capable of, and bringing the scale of this way back down to earth. So this episode could take less is more approach, and in a way use the Jaws effect, where it's what you don't see that terrifies you more. So I began to do a complete and utter rewrite. But this time, I took a different approach than I had done before, because I did not write a script per se, but rather I just drew what I wanted to see, and what I felt worked best essentially. You could say I storyboarded the entire episode there and then, just going off the scene, how it made me feel, and how effective it was to the story. Essentially, making it up as I go along. But it wasn't all just how I felt. For me, I took a lot of inspiration for this episode. I got inspiration from things such as Jaws, The Ring, Primal, and one thing I never expected to take inspiration from: The Boys.
That was diabolical.
Why The Boys, you ask? Well, it was both the tone and the unease, alongside Billy Butcher. As I took a lot of methods in terms of intimidation and going up against things way more powerful than him as inspiration to flesh out the officer and the way he acts. Which brings me to my next point. This episode, I framed it more differently to help set apart the two sides to this overall narrative, with Suvner and the officer. With Suvner, I always kept him in close and around the centre of the screen, to show he's the most important aspect of the show, but the fact his world only revolves around him. But with the officer, I took a different approach. He's rarely, if ever, the centre of the scene. He's most of the time just a small part of the overall set piece, because to him, he's not the main character here. He's not the thing he prioritizes the most. He's often to the corner, off the screen, out of the way, lurking in the shadows. And whenever he is in the center of the screen, it's uncomfortable and off-putting. It feels awkward and just uncomfortable, because he's not usually in that scenario. The reason as to why I made this choice, I can't reveal yet, otherwise it will spoil the future episodes, but just know that there was a reason behind this choice. The Judge has been one of the most difficult characters I have ever created. He was introduced in the second episode, played by my good friend Ryan. The Judge is not the villain. Let me clarify. I know that it may seem like he's the villain, evil mastermind behind everything that's going on, but he's not. Yes, he's far from good, but he's not the big bad of the series. His role is still being workshopped as we speak, but his general idea as to what I think he is, he's not fully established, and I kinda don't want him to be. He isn't more of a person, but more of a reminder of consequence. He's a reminder that your actions will have consequences, because the past you carry, no matter how much you try to forget it and leave it behind, it will follow you throughout your life. And if you fail to answer for them, then it will cost you everything. I know it's not the easiest thing to grasp, but it never was supposed to be. The Judge and Suvner are the viewpoint into what's really going on with this conspiracy, and the officer is essentially the audience perspective into all this. Confused and afraid, but learning more as we go on. And that's why they're both important. It both adds to the characters, but expands the world further beyond. It creates two narratives, but they both share a similar path. Two different perspectives to help bring you into this world. In terms of the process of animating, it went surprisingly well, because once I had a straightforward vision, it was easy to animate. And although my style isn't on the level of many other animators better than me, I feel it still works with the tone of the show, and fits with the style. But other than a few hiccups in animating and editing, it was probably the easiest process along this entire journey, alongside the sound mixing. So when I completed the episode, I set it for release on Saturday the 29th of July. It was nerve-wracking to say the least, spending months on a single video alongside it being my first live premiere. Hey guys, if you were there. It was a lot to take. But the moment it was fully released, I cannot describe how incredibly relieving it was. The reception for the episode has been the strongest it's ever been, just slightly under episode 2, but it wasn't anywhere near the catastrophe I had worried it would be, especially considering the utter shit show it took to make. The episode did take the least amount of views, but honestly, I don't mind. I made this series because it was something I wanted to call my own. It was something I could say belonged to me, and I honestly wouldn't change it for the world. This journey has been rough, but I still want to do it, because this is the path I want to take. I will do anything to make this happen, but I simply cannot do it alone anymore. But you can help me. If you want to support this and many other projects I'll create, subscribing and liking the videos, it helps a lot. It helps promote me to more people and helps spread my content all over YouTube, and just it helps the channel grow. So that's all I ask, because you all already are amazing and I just want to take you on this journey with me, because if it wasn't for you guys, this wouldn't exist. So I think it's only fitting that we see this through the end. But before I go, in terms of episode 4, yeah, I'm not gonna work on that just yet. I can confirm that episode 4 will be made, and you'll probably get an update around October. But as for now, I just need to take a break. I have stretched my creative juices as far as I can go, and I just need a little time to refresh. But once I fully refreshed, best believe I'm going to jump back on that puzzle pieces train. But for now, thank you for watching, subscribe, like the video, and I will see you all next time.